Good morning. How's everybody this morning?
Good morning.
Good
Good.
morning.
How are you, Terry?
Let me see, my volume's doing something weird.
Okay. I saw two admittance, Mike and Terry. Did we get the other one or is it the same?
I didn't see anyone else.
No, you didn't see two. Okay, I was just making.
I know I did see two. I agree with you. I did see that, but
Might have
it
been
said two in
Terry
the
on
waiting room.
two different platforms.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody, again.
Good
Happy
morning.
Monday.
Yay. I guess
everybody, and welcome back.
I'm
It's
gonna
gonna be a great day.
I'm gonna make you co-host so you can spotlight everybody.
Are you saying I'm pinning people now?
Okay.
Pinning only does it for you.
Was that what I was supposed to do? Hmm?
No, I'll let Ryan take care of it. So
What did I do?
I don't know. There's a difference between pinning and spotlighting.
There is?
Yes.
It's not the same thing.
No.
Wow. Okay. So, good morning, Milan.
Good morning.
How are you?
I are.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I are too. So,
IRL.
so our plan is to speak about EQ versus IQ, or EQ in comparison to IQ. EQ, emotional intelligence, and of course IQ is intellectual quotient, but
Quotient.
well,
There you go.
but it's IQ. It's your intellectual intelligence. And so, what I did, I I don't like to try to recreate the wheel. I just want to find something factual to discuss when it's my day to speak. And my goal is to have everyone chime in and interact and have a really good discussion that feels well and is received well and processed easily. And it's like so easy a caveman could do it, right? That's why we're here to make everything as clear as possible. I found an article and I wanted to read some of it to you guys. And while some people say, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't read, Terry, I think you should read and read and read and read every chance you get, right? I'm an avid reader because, maybe at one point in time I wasn't that. And it feels good to be able to find things that resonate well and are factual. So I wanted to start off by reading this document. It says, did you know that when it comes to career success, people with average IQs outperform people with high IQs 70% of the time? Now, for me, that's right. Did you hear that, Terry? That was like, okay, because for me that's huge. That's huge. Is that huge for you too, Terry?
Yeah.
I heard you say that means wow, right?
Yeah.
So I went through life thinking I went through life thinking what most people think, and believing what most people believe was that the intelligent people have it better than me. The people with master's degrees and doctorates and all these degrees on this panel, right? And I thought, well, I was less than for years. And I'm happy and grateful that I found this particular article because it feels really good to me to know that when it comes to career success, I mean, you guys have to know that that means I've got a 90% chance of succeeding at anything I put these fingers in this mind to.
And a lot of people don't ever realize that or know that. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
felt that for a small part because of siblings going on for masters and doctorates and this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And, I went to where I went academic wise and then marriage and kids, but I had outside sources and inside sources within myself that said, yeah, okay, you can still. Even though it was put on hold for a while, it was you can still.
What do you think that inside source was something emotional?
It was very emotional.
Good.
It was very emotional because it was, I don't want to say self-taught, but self-learned. Because I know people that have all these degrees and their common sense is that of a broom, you know, and you think you've got all these, you know, letters and whatever behind your name, but I wouldn't ask you how to cross the street. So, you know,
Agreed.
for most people, some people don't get that awareness and they get stuck in that because I don't have this piece of paper, because I don't have that piece of paper, that I cannot, and you know, therefore I am not, and that's not true. That article, you know, commends that and improves that, but a lot of people don't get the chance to get those articles or get an outside source to tell them that they can.
So I love that you said that. The part two of that is, did you know that an individual cannot really develop their IQ?
No, they're born with it.
You just can't develop that. It's not something that you can nurture and make greater.
Right.
But you can take an emotion like desire and match it with a thought like commitment and reinforce it with a plan of action, and you can reach the stars.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go ahead, Jenna?
I was gonna say, one thing that's really interesting is, you know, you can't nurture your IQ, but you can you can use it and grow it. But what's interesting is, as I did that, you know, as I went through my academic career and got multiple degrees, I had not yet fully developed my emotional intelligence. And it was only when I developed my emotional intelligence, you know, and became satisfied with who I was inside and began to love the person inside, that I could use my IQ to do what I really needed to do to fulfill my purpose. Because I think if you have your IQ is also attached to your ego, and you're constantly questioning whether you're good enough, whether you're smart enough, because the thing is there's always someone smarter. I mean, I was telling you, you know, about the woman that I met at the party who has the, you know, PhD in quantum physics and material engineering. She's definitely smarter than me, IQ wise. But, you know, I felt her equal because of my emotional intelligence and my ability, you know, to have that confidence that exudes from the inside out. And that's what Terry's, you know, I think Terry's referring to too, is that if you judge people by those, you know, the letters after their name, or by, you know, the titles that society gives them, you know, that you put yourself up against them, you know, there's always going to be someone better, bigger, more smart than you are. And but understanding your emotional intelligence, accepting yourself, finding that place of peace and awareness, all of the things that we've talked about, you know, having the ability to say yes to yourself is really powerful. So it's kind of a culmination, Monty, what you're talking about, of all of the different things that we've done, right? And you have learned that, you know, because you've worked through so much to get to a point where your emotional intelligence is really shining.
So it's been the guide of my life. Yeah, it's been the guide in my life. But I wasn't conscious of it till very recently, and I see in the comments Mariposa is asking me to define. So here we are. First, IQ. It says an intelligence quotient, or IQ, is a measure of what psychologists call our fluid and crystallized intelligence. Put simply, an IQ test measures your reasoning and problem-solving abilities, right? That's the definition for IQ. for emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is your skill to recognize, understand, and control. That's the key word.
Control.
Terry, Terry, could you say what the key word is for the people in the back of the building?
It's control.
Thank you, darling. When you take control, which means when you go and do, we're in the act of doing, we're in control then.
Right.
So when you go and do what you want to do for your daycare, Terry, you're winning. I don't care who went to college for 12 years. More power to them.
Right.
Sit there and you get that money doing you based on your desire, your emotion, your thought process, because we're really discouraged, right, in a way to believe in ourselves if we don't have, I'm telling you, I experienced it, friends. I don't have the degrees, right? I have a degree in serving the public. If I can do anything, I can get next to you. I'll resonate with you eventually. I might drive you crazy for about 3 minutes, but once you get used to me, my emotional intelligence tells me that I will get control of what's coming out, and it will begin to resonate, and it will become perfect. And this is the way we do things with our mind. The thing for me, and the reason I was happy, Terry, that this was something I could discuss is, the inferiority I felt because I didn't believe I had a high IQ. I couldn't put together what IQ meant. But now that I read this in layman's terms, an IQ test measures your reasoning and problem solving abilities. Terry, have you taken an IQ test ever?
No.
Good.
I didn't.
Nor have I.
Think one of the reasons why I didn't was because I didn't want to be boxed. I didn't want to be boxed. Being early childhood educator and going to school for that, I have learned a lot of what I call falls under the grandfather clause. There's educators and child psychologists and social workers in my family. So a lot of what I've learned through experience and through watching and through going to college. But when I got at one of the centers that I used to work with and was head of their infant toddler or their toddler department, we have these seminars every year where you have to go and you have to be trained and whatever. I had, by going to some and talking to the people that you say we hobnob with and rub shoulders with, I was asked, well, can you do next year's courses? I didn't say anything about degrees. They were basing it on what they knew, what they saw, and what they had learned of and from me. So for 4 years, I taught at KVCC during the educators conference, and I didn't put not one piece of paper up saying what I had gotten from someone else, because it was what I had gotten from myself, self-learning, and taking these classes myself. And they never asked. I had one person later on when I said, I'm not going to do it this year. I'm moving on to something else as far as the academics and what I do in early childhood and special education. And they says, well, are you going back for your master's or your doctorate? And I just smiled. I just smiled because they were under the assumption that everything that I had taught, everything that I was saying, everything that I was doing was based on those degrees. Don't got them.
I just love that. I love that. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say, like, for me, it's kind of similar and kind of not, but I relate to that as far as my age. If I'm hanging out like with a group of people that are all 30s and 40s, I do not like anyone to bring up my age at all, because I feel like it puts me in a category of
It makes you boxed.
Yeah, it's boxing me, which I'm not in that box, so it's like that's why I try to refrain from that at all in comparison to.
I totally understand that. I want to say further that the more I read here with you guys, the more that I am discovering seconds before I share it with you. I feel like my one of my images that my husband's business, for those of you who see this, denverheadshots.com, one of my photos should be right next to this article, because listen, it reads that EQ is the single most important factor to predict life success and that it has zero correlation with the IQ, and it is the strongest driver of leadership and personal excellence. And Forbes thought that that was amazing. That's what I'm reading. And
Yeah.
Monty thinks it's amazing. Terry,
Yeah,
what about
what I just
you?
put in the chat aligns with that, Monty. So look at that.
I see it.
Yeah.
It says
Good.
IQ gives you the entry level skill for any job, but the real test of oh my God, it's like it totally fits. The real
Yeah.
test of leadership are these 5 emotional intelligence traits per Harvard. Self-awareness, and as I said, the more aware I become, I feel like my intellectual side is. Remember, Mariposa, I said I think they're merging my intellectual and my emotional, because this says it says if IQ gives you the entry-level skills for any job, but the real test of leadership are these 5 emotional intelligence traits. Here we go. From Harvard. 1, self-awareness. 2, self-regulation. 3, internal motivation. 4, empathy. And 5, social skills. Well, I'm a genius. Terry, you're a genius. Cheers. Cheers.
Hey.
Yay. Yes.
Ryan's a genius. Mariposa's a genius. Yeah.
I just love this.
I want
I
to
feel
say,
like
go ahead.
you remember
after you.
the what's it called? The hourglass. I know you remember the hourglass.
Sure.
I guess Mariposa. I guess you're aware. I guess maybe everybody.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Well, I guess I'll fill you in, Terry. So yeah, once I met Monty, I got me one of these guys.
Mhm.
And at least the way it was explained was like if the sand that's coming down is your past, basically stuff that's already happened, and then this is right now, and then this is what's to come. So if you're always focusing on this, then it's just gonna keep going. You're gonna run out. But for me, it's been like let's say for example, I'm angry, and then I can just I can stop and flip it, and I can make a decision like, all right, well, it's new time, so I can be able to take control of the emotion and change it. That's helped me. A physical example of being able to stop and change the
Flip
emotion.
the script.
So
Yeah.
taking
And that's one
control
of
of
the
that.
things that I try to teach to the kids, like you just said, Ryan, is to stop. Because when and kids, just like adults, they will have bad days and they will have touch attacks, and usually a toy is involved and some emotion is involved with it. But what I tell them, you have to remember that you are in control of your emotions. You can choose to be angry with this person and let it mess up your day because they're gone. Or you can choose to be happy about it, try to understand what happened. And I'm doing it on their level. Why did this happen? Why did you get angry? Why do you think they acted that way? And then we can take those things and put them together and decide whether we're going to be happy about it, we're going to learn from it, or we're going to be sad about it and keep going. And even at a young age, they were taught and they've learned how to regulate that emotion. They know what to do with that emotion to turn it around so that they're not like storming off and thinking I can't. And then in the phrase I can't, I don't let them use it. I don't let them use it, because even if they say, well, I can't reach that, then I'll flip it and say, well, what can you use to help you reach that? Oh, I can get the step stool out of the bathroom, or we can get Papa's ladder, or I can use a chair. Because if I let them stay in that I can't, and that's what the world will do. Sometimes it won't tell you how you can get ahead and how you can make that next step. And that's what I think the IQ test, is it an important test? In a sense, yes, because it lets you know where you are. But I think that should be an individual thing, not something to be compared to everybody else. Because, I've gotten here and I did not do those things, and I want my kids to get there. And if they want to do those things, I will encourage them 100%. I always tell them your education is very important, but your education isn't everything.
No.
Do you need those educational tools to make steps in life? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because you will get further with a high school diploma than you would with a GED without going through a whole lot of red tape. You will get further than a high school diploma with some college, a college degree. And if you want to pursue more, by all means, please pursue more, but don't let anybody tell you that if you don't have that, then you don't qualify. Because like I said, I taught at college level. They didn't know, but they were basing it on what they saw, what they heard, what I did. You know, so that question wasn't asked later when I said I was moving on to something else. They automatically assumed, based on what they knew, that it was a master's or a doctorate, because they didn't know. Because like Monty, I read, I learned my field, I learned my craft. I did go to college for early childhood and special ed. I did work in special ed centers. I did work with, you know, A, B, and C as far as the grade levels that I wanted to do, but I didn't base it on somebody else's opinion in somebody else's box.
That's cool.
It
Very
was
good.
strictly for me.
Mariposa. Thank you, Terry. Mariposa, were you about to say something before Ryan started saying something?
I'll let Ryan go.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something really quick while we were talking was, at least this is the way I was looking at it as far as the emotional intelligence. I feel like, you know, if you have control of your emotions, then really you have control compared to someone who doesn't, then really you have control of the situation, because if someone lets their anger or sadness or whatever take control of them and you're able to pause and think, then really you have, I don't want to say you can take advantage of them, but you can take advantage of the situation. You are at a higher level than them as far as clarity in your mind, because I feel like you can, if someone is clouded by anger or sadness and stuff, and you're able to detach and look from a different perspective, then you have full control over.
Ryan, we got to get out of each other's heads, because I'm sitting here thinking, because you've got the clarity and they don't, and you said the word clarity. I don't know if I can do this today, y'all. I don't know if I can do this today.
It's too early. It's Monday.
The mind melding.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm thinking, you know, because we have the clarity if we stay calm and we are in control of our emotions, and that person, whoever, whatever the circumstances is, they don't have the clarity, because that anger, that frustration, that whatever is clouding their mind.
Yeah,
So.
it's I have a firm belief, if you control, and I read it somewhere, if you control your emotions, you control your destiny.
Mm,
You
that's true.
you control your destiny. You can master your life, master. So we all need knowledge, right? Since we were kids, we're gathering all this knowledge, all this data, but it's not, that's why a lot of people with degrees are not, a degree and a doctorate does not equal millions of dollars. It does not manifest happiness either. You know, you can have the master's degree and still not live a fulfilled life, not full as a person, right? So it's when you bring it into your emotions, when you can express yourself, right? And you are being who you really want to be and earning the money that you want to make and living the life that you really want to live. That's when the emotional part takes over, because you have to believe it. You have to embrace it. You have to quiet down all those thoughts, the fears, the old stuff that you were taught as a child about life. And you have to say no to that. You have to say, no, that's not my truth, right? So you embody it, and your emotions, you're embodying your truth, your reality of what you do want, your desires. You make it real in your physical being, in your emotions. Right. You make it real. And when it's in your body and you're vibing your new vibration at the new end state, then you start taking action. Our body is our tool. It's our vehicle for doing the things that are going to bring us what we want. And then when you're connected to your end state, you get the inspired ideas, and when you're aligned with that, with your emotions, your vibrations, you're going to go act on them.
Right.
Versus if you're, like Ryan said, in fear or whatever, angry about whatever, you're going to bring more of the same. You're going to stay stuck. You're not going to progress. You're not going to move forward.
Right.
So you have to really...
Go ahead, Monty.
No, you go ahead. Absolutely.
One of the examples I have of that as a constant in my life is my husband. Left home early, joined the military, you know, met me. We did the military thing. He got out, he went to college. And then he had to stop because of finances, and we're old enough for the GI Bill type thing when you were getting assistance. And he had a couple of people to tell him, you know what, you're never going to get your degree. You should not have stopped. And he goes, yes, I am. So we had our children, and we moved, and we got out of the military, and he did some schooling, and we moved, and we came back to Virginia, and we left Virginia, and we came back here, and he said, and I'm going back to school. And he went back to school, and he got his psychology degree.
Okay.
So he took those naysayers and those you can't do, and he did it. And he did it. Even when he applied for a simple job at Target, they said, dude, you are way too qualified to work in his warehouse. He said, but I need this schedule and this timing to continue to do what I want to do. And that was to go back to get his degree. And they were like, well, if you're going to go back to school, we're going to pay for it.
Look at God.
Really, that was a Southern God. You're right. So he went back to school for what they needed, but then they paid for his other courses that he needed on the university level. And, so I just tell him, the first time you try to analyze me, there will be a problem with your degree, but it just goes back to clarity and desire.
Yes.
And want. And that
it does
further. And that push has pushed me.
Yeah, and the great thing about emotional intelligence is, our bodies are an emotional filter. And when you are able to not just live the life that you want, but like take a step back every so often and really observe the life that you have. Not just the life that you want, but observe the life that you currently have. Like that's the real power of emotional intelligence for me, is being able to spot check myself along the way. Yes, I'm focused on my end goal and what I'm going for. However, there's a lot of Tuesdays in between now and then, and it's like being able to step back and emotionally check yourself of where am I right now? Because it's not about like minimizing any of your emotions, because I think we're able to fully express all of them as they come about, but being able to observe the results of them and how they're actually impacting your day-to-day, how they're impacting your thoughts, because it's easy to spiral with your emotions. And the good thing about emotions as well is that emotions give you those feelings, allow you to literally feel in your body, that touch, that aspect of feeling. Like when you embrace someone with a hug that you haven't seen in a while, that feeling that you get, and that internal feeling is really attached to the fulfillment of your desire, not just the identification of your desire, but the fulfillment of it. And utilizing that emotional state of like, yes, I am, in France in my great cottage eating amazing food, like that feeling, you can use that to bring those things about.
It's fuel.
And that's really, like scripture tells us to taste and see the goodness of the Lord. And the way that you do that is to really internalize it and allow those feelings to come about. And it's just so much more powerful of an existence. And I love that feelings are really attached to the feminine aspect of our being. And that feminine aspect is also how psychologists relate to the subconscious, which is really the development aspect of who we are. Our conscious mind is the male aspect that we choose when we choose what to focus on, but the emotional intelligence, that subconscious that really develops what the things that we want is so powerful. And to just be able to embrace that and love that and love that. I mean, I think women have that advantage in that way, because most men just look at emotions as inconvenient, but when you see them as really useful, then it's so much more powerful to enhance your existence on a daily basis.
I think we need to have a whole entire show on what you just mentioned about men and showing emotions, and what the numbers actually are, of how many men will honestly say, hey, I'm just like my mom, you know what I mean? Like, it's like to speak about the masculine and the feminine. Like I know some guys who are identically like their mother, totally feminine, but that's just how they are. Anyway, we should have a talk about it, someday maybe. I just thought that was interesting.
Absolutely.
It's just a powerful observation, just to observe yourself.
Well, the thing
Never-
is that we disconnect from our feelings and our emotions a lot of times, right? Because we don't want to feel pain, or we don't want to feel certain things that come up, right?
Or we don't want
Especially,
others to see it.
right? We're not ready to fully embrace our emotions. So we run, we hide, we get into addictions, we get on social media, we do whatever to avoid our feelings, and we're not connected to our real emotions. But our emotions have a lot to teach us. Like, why am I feeling this way? What's going on inside of me? What is triggering this feeling? And when you dig deeper and you go and you find out, oh, it's because I have unforgiveness, or I have resentment, or I fear this from happening, right? You do some inner work, and you bring yourself back to wholeness, back to your truth, back to that high vibe where you truly are living the life of freedom and not letting those feelings, because your fear can still control you even though you're trying to run away from it. Because
Right.
That's when it has the most control, probably.
right, exactly. Because now you're
Yeah.
running away and you're hiding in this and you're hiding in that, and you don't really become self-realized. You don't really become the person you were meant to become, because we're running away from our feelings and not wanting to feel.
And I think we're taught at a very young age to run away, like telling little boys don't cry. First time I heard somebody say that, I was like, I'm getting ready to get up in your business, because that action just brought them to tears. Then let them get those tears out, because if they don't, that stuff builds up.
Why suppress
That
it?
stuff
Why teach
builds
suppression?
It builds up. Let them have that emotion, because emotions are real. Emotions do guide, and it's better for them and us to let those emotions out at the time that they need to be expressed and come out, because if we don't, that's why people explode. That's why you got this guy that was just driving to work, minding his own business, thinking he's having a happy day, and a song on the radio or somebody cuts him off, and then it triggers everything that he's been told as a male to suppress, 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 suppress. And he can't suppress it anymore. And then you've got road rage.
Or
you've
beyond,
got
yeah.
exploding on the job, or you've got a husband going off on a wife, or a wife going off on a husband because she was never allowed to express the emotion that somewhere in her life she had a bad touch. This guy didn't do it, but because she wasn't allowed to deal with that, then it comes out not necessarily at the wrong time, but it was never dealt with.
Yeah,
And we're taught as children to hide our emotions and to cage them and not express them.
exactly.
That's not
Well, and
good.
emotional intelligence enables us to feel those emotions, to, analyze and understand, work through them, and then, step in to
Release
resolve and a solution. Yeah, a new way of
Right.
And
doing
like
things.
Milan said, if we step out and look at them, then we know, and we do have the clarity to deal with them and to go on.
Right. And it also shows up in the body as illnesses, as tumors, as cancer, as
Preacher
back
girl.
pain, and heartache, migraines, all of it.
Yeah.
Listen, all of that is true. It is. Mariposa, what when it does show up like that, because isn't that an emotional thing too? Can we go to our higher emotions to change that? Or
Yeah, of course. So when you're triggered, when you are spiraling, right? Milan used this term, and it's very common. When you spiral, right? When you come up against something that you don't like and you run away from it, subconsciously you're taking over, right? It's that fight or flight mode. And so you consciously start thinking in this survival mode, and you create more stories, and then there's more fear, and this little problem all of a sudden becomes this huge, gigantic feeling that of overwhelmness, and you just don't even know how to process out of it. So you have to become aware, right? Aware that you are
self-awareness.
in a spiral.
Yeah, self-awareness.
Something that I talk in the book. You got to become aware that you're in
I
a
love that.
spiral. You got to stop what you're doing, take a deep breath. You got to ground yourself, right?
Yeah.
And just know what
Self-regulation.
yeah, it's not real. It can't hurt you. It's done. And just ground yourself, right? Come back to safety through breathing exercises, through talking about it, to getting help, professional or otherwise, coaches that, that's what I do. That's what my specialty is. And then bring yourself back to calmness, right? And feel safe. That's the most important thing, just to feel that safety, get out of that fight or flight response. And you can constantly do exercises so that you're not overtaken by your emotions, because you're processing them through, through them. But once you realize, and you go back and you bring your whole healed person, yourself, your parent, your adult person, which is your higher self, right? Where you are centered, where you come from love, where you are regulating yourself, right? And you come back to this emotion and you thank it for showing up because it protected you at some point in your life, and you thank it. There's no judgment. No, shouldn't have judgment on ourselves or on anybody else. And we embrace that protector, because it's a protector. It's here to protect us, and it worked for us in the past, but not anymore. And you embrace it and you start to parent yourself. You start to bringing that part of you back to wholeness, back to processing. Okay, what was it that caused this trigger? What emotion, what feeling, what memory? Because there's a memory in our body that's trapped, that's trying to get released, right? And so when we can go back through that and feel through that, hold yourself through that feeling and know that you're safe and you're grounded and you're protected and it can't hurt you, you're just releasing it. You have to process through that and release it and let it go.
One of
And
the
change it.
true things that you said that really resonated with me was healed and whole, because you have to heal from those emotions. And once you do that, then you do allow yourself to feel whole. And then, like you said, you can work through it. I thank you for showing up. And now I have clarity, and now I'm in control and I can go on.
Absolutely. I love
Yeah,
that.
for me, something that I discovered about my emotional state is that, one, it's always there. So like trying to avoid it really just doesn't work. It's always there.
Like trying to avoid your skin, it's going to be there.
Right. And one of the things that I've really learned about myself and my emotional state over the years is that my emotions are really getting me to notice something, getting me to just notice something. Like, oh, you're angry. Well, that's getting you to notice something that you see as wrong. For some reason I see this as wrong, and it's upsetting who I am. Okay. Or, oh, I'm tearing up right now with this Hallmark commercial. Why? It's getting me to notice that I am attached to the role of father. I am attached to the role of son. I am attached to the role of husband. And it's just really getting to me to notice myself. And when I looked at it as that, it seems like very practical. Like, oh, these emotions are really practical. It's really getting me to know myself better. And it's not something that, needs to be regulated necessarily, just really observed. And I found that it's teaching me so much about myself. And the more that I learn about myself from myself, which is interesting, that you're learning yourself your entire life. But the more that I learn about myself, the more that I take those cues from my emotions, the more that I feel, the more that I'm my fullest self. So that when other situations arise, I don't have any issues expressing myself, whatever that may be, because I know myself more thoroughly, because I'm constantly observing myself through the markers of my emotions. And that really helps me to be more of a well-rounded person, to be able to observe myself in the moment. Like, for instance, last night I was talking with my son, and it was going smooth and dandy for a certain time, and then it wasn't, and I could feel myself. I felt those emotions of upsetness or of anger, and I just stopped myself because I knew this isn't conducive. But because I know myself and I have that emotional intelligence built up, I could see it before it reacts, and I'm not constantly backpedaling. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But rather, I can self-regulate in the moment and actually like, okay, well, how am I going to move forward with this? And the more that you do that, the faster you can do it. And that's one of the things that every aspect of success for business or life, or the best florist in the world, or the best teachers in the world, or the best anything, is their ability to decide fast, to decide quickly, to observe quickly, and to make decisions quickly. Like, that's the real marker of success, is to do things as fast as possible, in the most right way as possible, and constantly observing your emotions of just, what is this asking me to do? What is this asking me to notice? Really empowers you to level up even that greater, and to be able to see things a lot faster with a lot more people. And like Ryan was saying, like, it gives you instant clarity almost. And it becomes just a part of who you are. And it's not even a chore anymore, or something that you have to observe.
Mm-hmm.
You just notice that it becomes a part of who you are and how you operate. And it's just so useful.
Yeah.
I really want to say something.
Say
And say it.
Terry, I like all your input, and I really love all your input. And I want to say that I'm very happy to hear details about you. I'm very grateful you shared things about your education and what education you have, right? Because the more so first off, I read Forbes articles all the time, because Forbes is about that money. So I'm trying to see what's going on with the money. And then I come across this article about EQ and IQ, which is what I'm speaking on today, what we're speaking on today. And I think it's been great thus far. I just want to add one more tidbit from this article, and I hope that it increases everyone like it has done for me. It says, further found in the Forbes article, and I quote, all the people we've studied, Forbes, at work, any work, we found that 90% of the top performers are high in emotional intelligence. Like, and what that tells me, and on the flip side of that, only 20% of the people who were at the bottom were emotional intelligence, and the other 80% were IQ intelligence. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because I'm definitely not an IQ performer. I don't even think I have any interest in ever taking the test for an IQ, because everything I've done from an emotion. I've done from a feeling. Honestly, like, it gives me joy to say, hey, I want to sit and talk with people every day.
It's self-guided.
Mm-hmm. It is self-guided, self-motivated, self-awareness, self-regulation. I love when Jenna posted this. It's like, this was food for my soul over here in the chat, because I was like, you know what? The traits are extremely amazing. Self-awareness, like I'm so aware now that I ramble. I'm so aware that I lose. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a hold of everything, because I'm seeing more things in front of me. Even when Ryan shared this with me this morning, Terry, to help me with my speech today. And it's a list of low emotional intelligence, and on the other side, it's a list of high emotional intelligence. And I'm sure we're going to get that to you, but I love this because on one side, on the high emotional intelligence side, and this is the gauge, you guys, this is what they were talking about. You can further develop your emotional intelligence. You can make it greater. So your low emotional intelligence, if you're aggressive, if you're demanding, if you're bossy, God, I hope I'm not any of those things. No need to say anything. Everybody just go ahead and stay muted. So anyway, but it has a list of them, Terry. And then it has a list of the, Terry, what you doing? You laughing? Look. This is me. It is me. But on the high side, assertive, ambitious, strong-willed, decisive, driving. And so I think it's important to, when it said that self-awareness, Jenna, when you posted that, it made me think, well, this is a really good list to keep you continually aware. You know, you stay on the right side of your vibration, on the right side of your energy, your emotions, and I mean, success is there. Like all of that, all the good, right, Terry? All the good words felt great, right?
Yep.
Yes, good. I passed the mic.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh,
Well, I was just
Ryan.
gonna jump in earlier, but there was some good back and forth going on. about the suppressing emotions and stuff like that. So it was just going to be me, I guess, kind of correlating my emotional intelligence. So for me, like growing up, it was the bottling, or what's it called? Depressing? No, not depressing.
Suppressing.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Suppressing
Or
everything.
repressing, yeah.
So I would snap, and I don't know. Even now, I suppress. I just never had anyone to share to. So even like in my adult ages, was when I would try and share, I would just completely break down. So I couldn't even get words out.
Yeah, you were so
Which is still me
cool.
today, because I haven't, actively still communicated it, I guess, my emotions. But with the emotional awareness, it's nice because I kind of am learning from those emotions and taking control of them. Though it still probably wouldn't help me if I were to try to share certain things, because I may still break down in that sense, because it's been 23 years of bottleness. But I feel like moving forward, every day is my.
Yeah, I
it's
think
nice to be aware of them.
that's something that's important, Ryan, too, is that and not criticizing yourself. Self-awareness and self-regulation don't mean self-criticism,
Right.
and I think that you have chosen, we've talked about this before, you have chosen to live in the moment and live in the present. And it's not that you don't allow yourself to feel the emotion, it's that you don't go back. When I did that work with the trauma that I experienced as a child, I went to that moment. It was a physical pain that I went to, and I went to that memory, and I embraced it, and forgave my child self, because somehow I had blamed my child self for what had happened to me, and I embraced my child self and released it. And the thing is that however you do that, there is no wrong, there is no right, and you're doing that in small ways. You are choosing to live in the present and manifest the wonderful, beautiful self that you are, and live with clarity in that moment. And it doesn't mean that there's any wrongness in not feeling all of the emotion. Like you said, if you feel all the emotion at once, it's too much. So you release little pieces of it. Every time that you succeed, every time that you make a choice to say yes to yourself, to move forward, to live a life of prosperity and abundance and love and joy, every time that you make that choice, you release that pain, and you take on a new aspect of yourself, a new level of emotional intelligence. So I commend you for that. And I think that that's an important thing too, is that as we work through this process, each one of us brings our own life journey to the table when we're talking, and there is no judgment here. And I think there is no right, there is no wrong. It's just acceptance and love. And I love the word clarity too, because clarity means that you're unclouded by all of the things that are around you, and you see straight and forward of you what you want and how you want to proceed. And that emotional intelligence is being able in that moment, like you said, right, to make that decision. Milan was talking about making decisions quickly. It doesn't mean that you rush through life. It means that you choose to be present in that moment. I mean, Eckhart Tolle, his entire career is based on teaching us to live in the now, right? To live in the moment and not dwell in the past or dwell in the future, but to live in the moment and to appreciate and be grateful and be happy and be joyful in that moment. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's my response to you, right? You're in great shape.
It's about the self-awareness, right? What is going on in our emotional being, our intellectual, just giving that conscious effort to our emotions and regulating, but also when you stay focused on it, you give it, so you quiet all the distractions, right? You go into your however you come to yourself, right? Whether it's in a meditation or prayer or just quietness, getting away from all the noise and all the distractions, shutting everything down, right? And when you're closing your eyes, you introspect and you go inward, and you do the work, right? You connect and you release. You connect and release the fear. You connect and release the pain or whatever it is that's showing up. And then you embrace the future, embrace your new being, your new state in that moment. And it's an instant moment. It's like a miraculous moment, miracle minute. as Gabby Bernstein says, but you also are living in the present, and you want to be grateful for everything and that you have in the physical today, but also being grateful for the future. You bring it closer to you. You know, it's great, but it's also not just accepting the physical as your end and be all. Is that you can dream, and you can have something bigger, better, and you can expand, and you can grow, and you don't, there's nothing stopping you. It's not a degree, it's not your knowledge. You don't need any of that to want something and to have it in your energetic field, in your space, in your heart, in your mind, in your soul. Like, desire is there for a reason. It's because you can have it, but you have to believe in it. And when you believe, then anything is possible.
Right.
Wow.
And you can set those desires and things too. Ryan, you kind of hit home with me as far as, you know, keeping stuff in and not exploding. We can all release and go back to things on our own level. You know, you can do it as a group, you can do it individually. You can talk out a situation to yourself, and then at the end of that conversation, just tell yourself, that was a period, that was not a comma. I will not continue on with this. This is done, this is over. I will continue. And that's what sometimes when I'm talking to my kids, I'll say, you know, no, that was a period. That was not a comma. That means we're not going to continue to talk about this. My answer has been given. And I think we have to emotionally tell ourselves that too. Yes, baby, you can go get your shit. I've gone through this. I'm over this, and I release this, and that's a period, not a comma. I won't go back to this again. This no longer has any control over me. My positive emotions do. And we all walk those paths, because, you know, we can sit back and, you know, tit for tat with ourselves, but when we say, no, this is what's in control, we all go from there.
Wow.
Powerful.
Period,
not a comma. I like that.
True that. Period, not a comma.
Like
Brian,
Feel that.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that share. That's all I'm going to say. And we need to talk after this call. I think I'll say that too.
So yeah, it's when you can
Pardon?
respond, when you start to respond to life instead of react to life, you know that you're emotionally in control of your feelings and your emotions, and you don't let that anything take you away from your whole, your centered, whole self, whole healed self, your adult self.
Yep. There goes that whole and healed again. I like that.
I love that you know, we talk about that, you know, responding as opposed to reacting. And I didn't know this, so I just assumed that other people didn't know as well, that the word spond is actually its own word. And spond means is a personal pledge or a personal oath. So basically it's a place of truth. So when you respond, you're performing from a place of truth. And that's a lot more powerful than reacting. Act is just in the moment, it's spontaneous. So it's, you know, react is just another spontaneous action. But the response is really coming from a place of truth and oath to yourself. And that allows you to see things that, you know, like going back to what Ryan said in the beginning, that clarity. You know, it gives you that clarity that you need. And knowing that, like, yeah, like we said, you know, your emotions are there as a guide and you know, so that you can self-regulate. And it's really something that we didn't decide to be there. We didn't design these emotions, you know, like anger and joy and peace and love and all these things that come about, these feelings. We didn't design them, you know, they're built in. And just like anything else, and like my webinar is going to be next week, which I'm excited about, is that the answers are built in. All the answers are built in, and your emotions are a part of that, of the answers that are built in. And being able to observe them and speak to yourself with the proper self-talk allows you to really captivate the true power of those emotions. And you know, being able to just observe and use. And, you know, moving forward, it allows us to not be stuck in places. Because even when it's a painful emotion, you know, like if someone, you know, a loved one dies, or someone that you love really hurts your feelings or betrays you or something, you know, that's powerful and that's intense. And that still is able to you be observed and move on, observe and move forward, observe and move forward. It's never meant to be stuck somewhere. You can love and be in love your entire life, but you don't have to be stuck in one particular moment, because then that's taking away from the other ones. And it's, you know, as soon as you start to feel stuck again, that's just a marker getting you to notice something. Hey, you're stuck. Notice that you're stuck. Why do I feel stuck? You know, oh, I'm doing this again and again. Okay, well, that's insanity. If I'm doing this again and again, expecting a different result, then that's insanity. What am I doing? It's really just, you know, that inner knowing that we were always talking about, that inner knowing that we all have, is just talking to you constantly. And if it's, you know, if it's, you're feeling stuck and you're feeling like these same emotions are appearing over and over, then that's just getting you to notice something that needs to change. And usually it's just a small tweak. And sometimes, you know, take your own advice. Hey, there's a period here, not a comma. I dealt with this. It's gone. I no longer, you know, this no longer serves me. Like Celine is always talking about. Okay, this thing is no longer serving me. I bless and release. I bless and release. Sometimes that's our own past. Sometimes that's our own decisions. Okay, I'm not that person anymore. And that goes back to the self-image that you did a week or so ago. That, you know, does this align with the person I decided I am? And, you know, and sometimes it's that, like, you can just release yourself in that regard. Like, this is not serving me. This doesn't align with who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even and emotions, because they're so attached to who we are. You know, our imagination and our memories are attached with our emotions. That's how we relate to our own truth. And sometimes you have to, you know, they seem so real and so intent and so a part of us that it can be hard to let go of. But you can, you know, let go and move on and still, you know, remember without having to be attached to it. And that's one of the things that the Buddha actually teaches, is the ability to be unattached to things rather than being detached. And being unattached is when you purposely let go of things, rather than detached is when you deny that they even existed.
Right. You're not coming out of denial and cutting the cords, and staying connected to your truth. What do you want? What do you desire? What is your soul yearning for? What is that bliss? What is that passion that you have in your heart that you really, really want, but you're not allowing yourself to have for whatever reason? And that's the work that has to be done, is to release and cut and let go of all the things that no longer are going to help you in that journey, and the things that don't serve your higher good, your higher purpose. Monty, take it away.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to the entire panel for all of your input on this particular topic. We did speak more about emotional intelligence, which is the ability to recognize emotion in yourself and others. And when you recognize it, you can control and manage it. And I want to take my hat off to Terry, because whether you're absolutely 100% conscious that that's what you do daily, you recognize the children and the family's emotions and you act accordingly. You devise an instant plan, ABC, get over there and sit down, you go over there, you get your cup, whatever it is you're doing based on what you're managing. I understand that that's what you do, and I love it, and I'm happy that we went over this topic, because I feel like a really, really, really good CEO, because I'm all EQ. I'm all emotional intelligence. Yes, I do have an IQ, but this resonates so well with me, so I just love it. So
Jenna, what does CEO stand for?
Well, he's the Chief Energy Officer.
Yes, of course.
I was thinking about go ahead, Terry.
I do want to add a tidbit that's totally off the subject. Next week or Wednesday, I have a field trip, so I won't be able to be here. So
no worries. We won't. We will wait for you. We won't teach anything.
Okay, because it's like I've been promising the kids this field trip, and it's a music, art, and movement class that I like to take them to.
Oh,
it's this coming Wednesday.
This coming Wednesday. Okay, awesome. I love dance and class. So yes, go do that with the kids. It sounds like so much fun.
Please do enjoy yourself, and thank you for letting us know.
I do. I have my tambourine, and
we'll come dance with you.
I live by example most of the time, but in this class, we all go for it. It's a judgment-free fun and learning, and they need it.
Love
I love
it.
it.
So, and they changed our day from Thursday to Wednesday. I was so bummed.
It's an
Oh,
embodiment of joy.
Yeah, and I think our words for the day, the teacher and me coming out, are clarity,
Yeah.
truth,
Mhm.
healing, and wholeness, and aware. So
Yes.
those are your 5 words for the day, class.
yeah.
Aw.
And they
Keep-
lead to bliss. Have
Keep
a wonderful
working.
week.
Keep working on your
Thank you.
bliss. Keep working on your
Yeah.
bliss, your future.
Thank
Oh,
you.
and the good news that I forgot to put in is I found the publisher that does books with sound. Hello.
Look at that. Ryan.
I love it.
Yeah. So as y'all were talking about cutting emotion and detached versus unattached, I was imagining an image, if you will. So I was imagining a guy or person, who had shackles on their legs, and like each one of those ball weights was like an emotion, but the whole time he had the keys in his pocket.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
I
had the
love
ring of
that.
keys. And all he had to do was reach back and unlock one of the
Yes.
emotions. But
Release the cord.
so I don't know if we can
That's
create that, but I
skills.
like it.
Do
I
it.
like
That
Should
was
create
a
it.
Image.
moment, Ryan. I like that.
That's
Go
so
with
great.
it.
I'll see.
He
see
had
if
the
I can-
keys in his pocket. That was good. That was good.
Do
Yeah,
it.
he had, like I was imagining like the ring of keys, like from the old
Yeah.
jail. He had them hanging there, dangling off his belt
The whole time he had the answers
whole
right there in
time.
All
his
he had to
back
do was
pocket.
reach back, and all he had to do was stop and reach back and cut the ties.
Yeah, you have the
Blessings.
power all the time.
That's right.
Have a
Bye.
good day,
Blessings.
Terry.
Not
Have a
problem.
beautiful week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have fun Wednesday.
Bye.
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 Bye.